The town of Eldir lay silent under a thick veil of mist, its cobbled streets whispering with the echoes of unseen footsteps. Nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, it was a place where ambition often withered under the weight of tradition. I was no stranger to that suffocating grip. My name is Elias, and for as long as I could remember, the world told me what I could and couldn't do. "You're not smart enough," they sneered. "You don't have what it takes." Those words clung to me like shackles, chaining me to a life of silent servitude. By day, I toiled in the blacksmith's forge, shaping metal with hands calloused from years of labor. But in the dead of night, when the town slept, my mind roamed free. I dreamt of inventions, of crafting something new, something that could change the world. Yet, doubt was an ever-present specter, whispering that failure was inevitable. Every idea I shared was met with laughter, every dream crushed beneath the weight of ridicule. The forge was not just my workplace, it was my prison, and each strike of the hammer felt like a nail sealing my fate. One evening, exhausted and weary, I sat by the river that slithered through the valley. The moon's reflection rippled across the surface, distorted and unreachable, much like my own ambitions. As I watched the water dance under the starlit sky, I felt a presence beside me. A man stood there, ancient yet strong, his eyes sharp like tempered steel. His voice, deep and knowing, cut through the stillness. "You look lost," he said, his gaze piercing through me. There was something about him, something unsettling, yet strangely familiar, as if he had been waiting for me all along. "I want to be more," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper, "but I don't think I have what it takes." The old man chuckled, the sound both wise and haunting. "Do you know what separates the extraordinary from the ordinary?" he asked. "It's not talent. It's not luck. It's belief." I frowned, my heart pounding against my ribs. "Belief?" I echoed. He nodded, his gaze unyielding. "If you do not believe in yourself, why should the world?" His words clung to me like an unseen force, burrowing into my soul, igniting something I had long thought dead. That night, sleep evaded me. The old man's words echoed in my mind, battling the voices of doubt that had long governed my thoughts. What if my failure wasn't due to lack of ability, but lack of belief? What if my greatest enemy had always been myself? As dawn broke, I made a decision. I would start small. I had spent years perfecting my craft under the blacksmith's watchful eye. Now I would use those skills for something greater. With trembling hands, I began designing a simple invention, a self-locking hinge, an idea that could change the way doors worked. Doubt slithered in as I worked, whispering its venomous warnings. What if it fails? What if they laugh at you again? But I forced myself to push forward. Each strike of the hammer became a defiance against my own fears, each molten curve of the metal a testament to my resolve. For weeks, I toiled in secret, pouring my heart into the invention. Finally, it was done. The hinge gleamed in the candlelight, a small yet powerful creation. It was time to face my first test. Heart pounding, I brought it to my master, bracing myself for his laughter. Instead, he was silent. He turned the hinge over in his hands, his fingers tracing the grooves with careful precision. His eyes widened. This is brilliant," he murmured, looking at me as if seeing me for the first time. My breath caught. For the first time in my life, someone wasn't laughing. For the first time, I felt a shift, a crack in the walls that had caged me for so long. But the road ahead was still treacherous, and I was not prepared for what lay beyond the forge's walls. My true battle had only just begun. Emboldened by my master's approval, I sought a greater challenge. The town council, men of wealth and status, controlled what was deemed worthy in Eldir. If they accepted my invention, it would mean everything. With newfound determination, I presented my hinge before them, my voice steady despite the fear coiled in my gut. But as I spoke, their expressions darkened. "A blacksmith's apprentice trying to be an inventor?" one of them scoffed. Laughter rippled through the room like a chilling wind. Leave the thinking to the scholars. Their rejection stung, but this time I did not retreat. I remembered the old man's words. If I did not believe in myself, why should they? Instead of surrendering to despair, I set up a small stall in the town square. There I demonstrated my invention to merchants, travelers, anyone who would listen. Whispers turned to murmurs, and murmurs to interest. Then, one day, a trader stopped before my stall, his keen eyes scanning my work. "This could be useful," he mused. I have contacts in the capital. He offered to take my invention beyond Eldir. My heart raced. This was it, the first step toward something greater. Weeks passed in agonizing silence, each day stretching endlessly. Then the letter arrived, sealed with the emblem of the Royal Engineers. My hands trembled as I tore it open. Your invention has garnered interest, it read. We request your presence in the capital. The words blurred as disbelief and exhilaration crashed over me. The capital, the very heart of innovation and power, wanted to see my work. This was my chance, the moment I had dreamed of. But as I prepared for the journey, a gnawing fear clawed at my mind. What if I wasn't ready? What if this was all a mistake? The journey to the capital was long, the road twisting through dense forests and endless plains. Each night I lay awake beneath the vast sky, my thoughts racing. Doubt lurked in the corners of my mind, whispering its cruelest fears. They will see you for what you are, a fraud. But I clenched my fists, repeating the old man's words like a mantra. I had come too far to turn back. As the towering gates of the capital loomed before me, my heartbeat quickened. The air was thick with the scent of metal and ambition. This city thrived on innovation. The Royal Engineers' Hall was a marvel of stone and steel, filled with minds sharper than the finest blade. I stepped inside, my stomach tight with unease. A stern woman named Lady Corver, the head engineer, stood before me, her gaze assessing. Show me, she commanded, her voice clipped and precise. My hands trembled as I presented the self-locking hinge, explaining its design. Silence hung in the air as she scrutinized it, twisting and turning the mechanism. My pulse pounded. Then, at last, she nodded. Clever, she admitted. But tell me, Elias, why should we invest in you? The old me would have faltered, searching for an excuse to flee. But I met her gaze with unwavering resolve. Because I am not just an apprentice, I said. I am an inventor, and this is only the beginning. For a moment, the room remained still, my words lingering like an unbroken note. Then, slowly, Lady Corver smiled. That, she said, is the answer I was looking for. The other engineers exchanged glances, murmurs spreading like wildfire. I stood taller, a fire burning in my chest. I had passed the first test, but the real challenge had just begun. The capital was a world unlike any I had known. It pulsed with invention, with ideas that could shape the future. I was given a workshop, a space to prove my worth. Each day I labored over blueprints and prototypes, pushing the limits of what I thought possible. My self-locking hinge was only the start. I designed new mechanisms, locks that required no keys, pulleys that could lift immense weights with ease. My hands ached, my eyes burned from lack of sleep, but I welcomed the exhaustion. I was no longer just a blacksmith's apprentice. I was creating something real. Yet, success bred enemies. Not all welcomed a newcomer into their ranks. I felt their eyes watching, their whispers trailing behind me like ghosts. One evening, I returned to my workshop to find my blueprints missing, my latest prototype dismantled. A warning. My pulse quickened, anger and fear coiling within me. Someone wanted me gone, but I would not back down. I worked through the night, redrawing designs from memory, refusing to be broken. If they sought to destroy me, they would have to try harder. I had fought against doubt my entire life. I would fight again. Days turned to weeks, my reputation growing. Orders for my designs began pouring in. Merchants sought my locks, nobles requested custom mechanisms. The name Elias was no longer spoken with ridicule, but with respect. One evening, as I stood in my workshop, the weight of my journey settled upon me. I had fought against my fears, against the voices that told me I was nothing. And I had won. Yet, in that quiet moment, I realized something else. I was not alone in this struggle. There were others like me, dreamers trapped in doubt, and I had the power to change that. One night, a knock echoed through my workshop. I opened the door to find a boy standing there, barely past childhood. His hands were clenched at his sides, his expression uncertain. Mr. Elias, he said hesitantly, I have an idea, but people say it's impossible. His words struck a chord deep within me. I knelt, placing a hand on his shoulder. Then prove them wrong, I told him. The only thing that truly matters is whether you believe you can. His eyes widened, something shifting within them. In that moment, I saw myself, the boy I once was. From that night forward, I made it my mission not only to invent, but to inspire. I sought out those who had been cast aside, those whose ideas had been dismissed. I built a space where dreamers could create, free from the chains of doubt. My workshop became a haven, a place where belief was nurtured, where impossibilities became achievements. Years passed, and the world changed because of those who dared to believe. I stood at the heart of it all, watching as the cycle continued. The old man's words had carried me this far. Now they would carry others. Looking back, I see the path that led me here, the forge, the laughter, the rejection. Each moment, each struggle had shaped me. I had learned the greatest truth of all. Self-belief is the foundation of success. Without it, even the most brilliant mind will falter. With it, even the smallest spark can ignite a revolution. And so I continue forward, knowing that somewhere, in some forgotten corner of the world, another dreamer waits. Afraid, uncertain, I will find them. I will remind them of what I once learned. True greatness begins with belief, and belief begins within. As I step into the future, I hear the echoes of my past, but they no longer haunt me. They fuel me. My name is Elias, and I was once told I wasn't good enough, but I proved them wrong. Not with words, not with anger, but with action. And now, as my inventions spread across the world, as new minds rise where old ones doubted, I realize the truth. The greatest invention I ever created was myself. And that is something no one can take away. The world may doubt, but I will always believe, always.